The newly elected Khalifa was on a peaceful mission, a mission to serve humanity. But the political situation in Pakistan became worse than ever before.
The regime of Zia wanted some political philosophy to support their regime politically and to give them a reason, a justification for remaining in power. So what they said was, they said they are the custodians of Islam. As such, they have to serve certain purposes for the sake of Islam. And as long as those purposes are not served and achieved, they would remain in power. You know, as if they were commissioned by God to do that. So for this, they had to align and implicate mullahs and to utilize and exploit them. And what was the purpose for which they were destined to play a very important role, you know? The purpose was to destroy the foremost enemy of Islam, that is Ahmadiyya community.
It was during Zia's time the persecution against the Ahmadiyya community peaked. Their shops were pillaged and set on fire, and mobs rioted outside their mosques. The discrimination practiced by the Bhutto government was stepped up.
तुम मुसीबतें हम पर इसलिए डाल रहे हो कि हम अपने खुदा से दूर हट जाएं, लेकिन तुम्हारी आयत करदा मुसीबतें हमें और ज्यादा खुदा के करीब कर देती हैं। हम अपने रब की तरफ और तेजी के साथ लौट जाते हैं।
Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV urged restraint on his followers. Do not respond to these provocations. He denounced in sermon after sermon the injustices that Zia was inflicting. God would punish him if he continued in his evil ways. God's wrath would be terrible. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih warned him again and again, but the general paid no attention to the warnings and continued to plot schemes in order to destroy the community.
You know, when I suspected that something is cooking against Ahmadiyya between the mullah and the then dictator of Pakistan, Zia-ul Haq, instead of running away, I went straight to Islamabad and camped there for 7 days.
He had many friends among the diplomatic community. Some he met at their offices, and some privately. From the meetings, he gathered something was going to happen, but no one seemed to know exactly what.
Until the Deputy Commissioner of Islamabad sent me a very urgent message. This Deputy Commissioner said, my earnest advice to you is, for God's sake, return immediately to Rabwa, or it will be too late.
Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV immediately returned to Rabwa. On the 26th of April 1984, Ordinance 20 was introduced under martial law by General Zia-ul Haq. The ordinance was designed to prohibit Ahmadis from practicing their faith.
I immediately called a meeting of all the Ahmadi elders, whoever were available at the time, to reach Rabwa immediately. I stated before them the facts, the consequences of this ordinance. I told them that according to this ordinance, if I remain in Pakistan and declare myself to be a Muslim, immediately they would arrest me and put me behind the bar. So how can I remain a Khalifa of Jamaatul Ahmadiyya, Khalifatul Masih, and operative at the same time?
The advice at the meeting was unanimous. Huzur should leave Pakistan immediately.
It was decided that Huzur would leave Pakistan by KLM. A messenger was sent to Karachi to do the booking instead of booking by telephone, that could be tapped.
It was decided that I would leave on Sunday morning by car, and then we reached at about 10:30, reached Karachi. And after eating food and just a little rest, we left for the airport because the plane, I remember, left at 12:30. Now, they told me to come late. Said there's no need for you to come early. They said exactly 5 minutes from the time of the departure of the plane, we will send our special car.
Everything seemed to be all right, and the manager assured that the flight would leave in time.
And the car came exactly 5 minutes before 12:30. And it was sent back.
The airport authorities, they stopped the flight from going on the scheduled time.
The order that the fourth head of the Ahmadiyya community is not permitted to leave the country from any borders was signed by Zia himself. Ziaul Haq lived most of his time during the time of Hazrat Khalifa al-Masih Salis, the third caliph. So what he dictated was, and this is written on that prohibition letter, that Mirza Tahir Ahmad, the fourth head of the Ahmadiyya community, for that, is not permitted to leave the country from any borders. They had a dilemma. They could not stop Mirza Tahir Ahmad from going on. And they did not know much intricacies about the fourth and third caliphate, So they must have started ringing the intelligence chief of the intelligence bureau in Islamabad and trying to get clearance from him or instructions that this is the case. That is why this was delayed. So at 1:30 we left. The plane, of course, went to Geneva and from there on to Holland, and there we had to wait for a while. Then we came to London.
Around midday, Huzur arrived at Heathrow Airport, and by the grace of Allah, we had made all the arrangements, no problem, no difficulty, and the staff of the KLM on which the airline on which Huzur travelled, they were also available to receive Huzur.
Once in London, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih could carry on his duties as the Khalifa. He, however, had to establish London as the new headquarters of the community. Once the new setup in London was established, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV was able to lead the community freely. However, back in Pakistan, Zia's persecution continued. Huzur's warnings grew stronger and stronger. Night after night, month after month, he prayed to God for help for his beleaguered people. He warned Zia in his sermon on the 3rd of June 1988.
और पाकिस्तान के बदनसीब सरबराह ने जो पहले डिक्टेटर के तौर पर जाहिर हुए, फिर उसके बाद सदर का चोला पहना, वो इस वक्त हज़रत मसीह अलैहिस्सलाम की तकज़ीब के सबसे बड़े लंबरदार हैं और उनके तमाम मानने वालों को भी, और उनको भी जो तकज़ीब में पेश हैं और हुकूमत पाकिस्तान से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, और उनको भी जो तकज़ीब में पेश हैं और उलमा के तबके से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, उनको भी जो तकज़ीब में पेश हैं और अदलिया से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, उनको भी जो तकज़ीब में पेश हैं और सियासत से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, उनको भी जो तकज़ीब में पेश हैं और आवाम से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, लेकिन कुछ गुरोहों के सरबराह हैं, उन सब को मैं मुखातब करके तमाम जमात अहमदिया की तरफ से मुबाहले का चैलेंज देता हूँ। अगर तुम मुबाहले के लिए तैयार हो तो मैं जमात अहमदिया की सरबराही में ऐलान करता हूँ कि लानतुल्लाह अलल काज़िबीन, तुम भी अपने चेलो चांटों को इकट्ठा करो, अपने बड़ों और छोटों को बुलाओ, अपनी औरतों और बच्चों को बुलाओ, और ये ऐलान जमात अहमदिया के मद्दे मुकाबले करने के लिए।
The challenge of Mubaila had been issued, but despite the warnings, Zia did not mend his ways.
हुकूमत का जहाँ तक ताल्लुक है, वो मासूम अहमदियों पर कानूनी हरबे इस्तेमाल करके तरह तरह के सितम ढा रही है। और आपको याद होगा कि मैंने आगाज़ ही में हुकूमत को ये भी मुतनब्बे किया था कि आप अगर अपनी शान के ख़िलाफ़ भी समझते हो चैलेंज को कबूल करना, अगर आप ज़्यादतियों से बाज ना आए और जुल्म व सितम की ये राह ना छोड़ी, तो जहाँ तक मैं समझता हूँ खुदा की तकदीर इसे मुबाहले के चैलेंज कबूल करने के मुतरादिफ बनाएगी और आप सज़ा से बच नहीं सकेंगे.
Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV saw a dream which contained a message from God.
I saw in a dream that I was translating a portion of Hazrat Masih Maud, the founder of the Ahmadiyya community's writings. The history repeats itself, but not the way you think it repeats. It repeats itself in a different way. And when I said this, there were some Englishmen sitting around me, and they said that you are not making the correct translation. The history repeats itself, as we understand, is a different concept. But there are certain things which in essence always repeat, and nobody can change the course of this history. Those who clash with God or His messengers, they are always destroyed. That is how history repeats itself, not like you understand. And in the when I got up, then I knew it was a message about Zia.
On Friday, the 12th of August, under divine guidance, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV declared there was no way back for Zia.
इसका मतलब ये है कि जिस कौम को हम मुखातब कर रहे हैं आज, जिसको हमने मुबाहले की दावत दी है, बदकिस्मती से उनके मुकद्दर में खुदा ताला की नाराज़गी का दिन देखना है. वरना अल्लाह ताला इस रंग में मुझे ये पैगाम ना देता कि हिस्ट्री रिपीट्स इटसेल्फ, उसमें कोई तब्दीली नहीं देखोगे, मुजरिमों को खुदा ज़रूर सज़ा देगा. जमात अहमदिया तो खुदा ताला के फजल से एक वाली रखती है, एक वली रखती है. जमात अहमदिया का एक मौला है और ज़मीन और आसमान का खुदा हमारा मौला है. लेकिन मैं तुम्हें बताता हूं कि तुम्हारा कोई मौला नहीं. खुदा की कसम, जब हमारा मौला हमारी मदद को आएगा तो कोई तुम्हारी मदद नहीं कर सकेगा. खुदा की तकदीर जब तुम्हें टुकड़े टुकड़े करेगी तो तुम्हारे नामो निशान मिटा दिए जाएंगे और हमेशा दुनिया तुम्हें जिल्लत और रुसवाई के साथ याद करेगी.
On the 17th of August, the C-130 Hercules transport plane carrying General Zia-ul-Haq was blown out of the sky. All 31 people on board died. The team investigating the crash eliminated one by one various possible reasons for the crash. How this had happened, the investigators were unable to say. Why it had happened, the whole world knew.